everyone. Welcome to our Briefcase newsletter for what is almost the end of 2024. I know I, for one, cannot believe that this year is almost over. It's been interesting, but we're happy to have you here. And joining us today is a good friend and trusted advisor, Elaine Eisner, with Eisner Cone Group. We are going to have a quick-witted conversation about insurance. I know that you are probably looking at me and saying, insurance, quick-witted, fun, can it be? Well, Elaine and I, we can make anything fun, including insurance.
Do our best.
So today our theme is, what is your number? I know I, from time to time, struggle with how much is enough and what's the right time. And so thematically, I think answering the question, what is your number, might help us all with some questions that we run into. So lightning round, Elaine, we'll start with life insurance. How much? How much does someone need? How much is enough?
That's a great question. What I can tell you is that when we ask that question in an initial meeting, just to gauge someone's understanding, they are usually off by a factor of 2 or 3 times. So if I throw that back at you and said, what's your number? Do you have a sort of formula that you come up with?
Well, I don't really. What I'll tell you is sometimes I'll Google things if I'm not sure of the answer, don't we all? And when you Google this topic, you get this, maybe you should get 10 times your income. And I've always thought to myself, what is the magic to that number? I don't know if that makes sense. I'm certainly not going to share it with a client because I can't make sense of it. So you tell me. Is that right or wrong?
Common answer, 10 times my income.
Okay,
and
so it's
I'm going to say most often wrong.
Okay.
When we are looking at insurance planning, we are going to go back collaboratively with the team of advisors and ask the wealth advisor, how much do you need to live on? What's your income? And so we will go back to income replacement often. So I might say, Emily, is it worth, if $1 million is invested, can you get 4%, 5%, 6% to comfortably live off of in perpetuity without invading principal? And you'll come back to us and say,
well, it depends on your age, but I would say this much. I think if I'm talking to someone who's in their years of accumulating or earlier years of retirement, if you draw much more than that 4 to 5%, you do definitely run the risk of eroding principal. As folks get older in their years, higher draw rates are pretty common. But I think that as we're talking about putting insurance in place, we should lean into that 4 to 5% range for our number.
So let's lean into 5%. $150,000 income, husband and wife each have it, $3 million.
Okay.
And then people come to us and say, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to afford $3 million.
That was going to be my next question. What if I can't afford that much?
So I think there's a misconception of how much insurance costs. When we're really doing foundational planning, we often look at a laddered term insurance portfolio. Remember, term insurance is just like renting an apartment. You have it for a period of time, and when you leave, there's nothing left. But it serves that purpose for risk management and building that foundation so we can continue building and planning for the future. Term rates have come down dramatically over the last decade. So what you think is unaffordable may be well within a budget.
Well, but then if I buy insurance that's term insurance, and you said, it's only around as long as it's around and it terms out, does that mean I just spent all that money for nothing, or are there some options?
That's a great question. And I think every time we start that foundation planning, we are looking to the future because most people have insurance for other reasons. Legacy to my family, tax efficiency, legacy to my favorite nonprofit organization, and that you need permanent insurance contracts. So when we look at term insurance, we look to the carriers that have what are called very good conversion privileges. Conversion is a great way to have insurance, not worry about a medical hiccup in the future, and be able to convert into some form of permanent insurance without any medical questions.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, really helpful information on life insurance, but I think a type of policy I get a lot of questions about is long-term care or extended care. A question I hear commonly, again, what's your number? What's too early? What's too late? What's the right time to be thinking about long-term care insurance? So tell me.
So any kind of insurance, extended care, life insurance, we need to know the why we want it. And that is usually protect our retirement income portfolio. And what other resources are there? It is never too early to start doing planning and thinking about viable solutions, because one of those solutions may be embedded into your permanent insurance contract. And some of those contracts are what we call that Swiss Army knife. They may offer access to that death benefit tax-free for extended care with a chronic care rider. They may offer cash value if you need income, tax-efficient, tax-free income, or a legacy death benefit. So when we have contracts that have multiple purposes, then you can start these solutions in your 30s and 40s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I always say, look at the leverage any insurance contract is going to give you, whether it's life, long-term care, disability. How much are you putting in, and what's your potential that you're getting out?
Yeah, and I mean, listen, I think that is music to anyone's ears, because the idea that you're going to buy something that you may never use it's an unpleasant idea. So if you're able to find a solution that, hey, if you don't use it for long-term care, it has other uses, you will eventually get a benefit for it. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that.
No, and I think that goes down to thoughtful planning and being willing to have these uncomfortable conversations, because no one wants to think about, oh, I might need care. But the reality is, all the statistics that we hear in the news, one of the two of us are going to need something. I'm sorry.
I know. Uncomfortable conversations. You said it's important. All right. Well, switching gears, we're going to continue on this trend of uncomfortable conversations. Disability insurance. I think disability is more common than people think, and having coverage is really important. But again, it's always that question of how much? Well, do I need it because I have it through my employer? And by the way, if I get it, do I need dollar for dollar coverage of my income? So answer me with all of your wisdom. How do you approach the decision around disability insurance in all these regards?
It's a great question. With anything through an employer, we treat that as, okay, that's great, but what if you leave that employer? What other benefits are you going to be able to have? So whether it's life insurance or disability insurance, we have to really be thoughtful, because you can leave and become uninsurable. That being said, insurance, especially disability on the group side through an employer, is much more cost effective, but it may not cover the entire risk. One of the reasons, tax efficiency. So if you have insurance being offered through your employer and they're deducting the premiums, any benefit you get is going to be taxed. So if my number is $10,000 a month and all of a sudden I'm paying tax on that, and I was used to having $15,000 or $20,000 a month, there's going to be a disparity.
Yeah.
And then look at the contract provisions. I particularly want own occupation. I don't want to go out necessarily and do another job just because I can. I want to do my job. So ONOC, to me, is a really key component to disability insurance planning. And there is often a gap between what an employer has and what our income producing professionals need.
And so having a little bit of both in the world of disability sounds like it makes a lot of sense.
I really like having personally owned insurance in all categories. Again, if I own it, I'm not going to deduct the premium. So any benefit I receive is going to come in tax-free. And we know tax rates keep changing. So let's take taxes out of the equation for disability to the extent we can.
Excellent. Excellent. So, okay, here's another what's your number? We run into people that say, I've got lots and lots of different coverages. I've got some life insurance. I've got some old annuities. It's all in my individual name. I might have an estate tax issue, but at the same time, if I terminate these policies, I have an income tax issue. So is there a way to get the best of both worlds and figure that all out without causing yourself a tax problem? Or is there a way to mitigate the tax problem?
So we can definitely mitigate. And we see this all the time. What we purchased 20 years ago for one purpose, our lives have evolved. And now we have a different thought process or a different purpose for the insurance or the annuity. And the IRS has been very gracious in allowing for 1035 exchanges, a like-kind exchange. So I can actually change a contract from one insurance to another insurance, or one annuity to another annuity that's more appropriate as I age. Specifically, you want to be very cognizant, because in the annuities, any gains are taxed as ordinary income. And I think that's a misunderstanding that people don't understand. More importantly, what you take out first is the growth, and that is taxed first.
Yeah.
So you get your basis back at the end and you pay your tax first. You can 1035 those and spread that taxable gain over a period of time, or potentially lifetime, to create income or a personal pension plan.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, taxes are a big factor on a lot of people's minds. And sometimes as you're adjusting your plan, it could create tax implications if you're not thinking it through the right way. And I will say, you and I recently worked together on something where we were able to mitigate tax consequences, but evolve someone's plan in a way that made more sense for their current goals and their current life. And that was really helpful. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I think from a tax perspective, you just really need to understand a contract. The worst thing that you can do is surrender a life insurance contract with a gain, because there are so many other options. Remember, you need $1 of death benefit to be in place the day you die. Everything else then was tax efficient. The growth, the money that came out, but you still have to have it in force.
Helpful info. So I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
And this is just totally off the beaten path, but back when I was a little babe, my mom bought me a life insurance policy. Do you recommend that to people? If so, what do you tell them to do with it? Here I am, 50 years old. Well, I'm older than 50, but we're not going to admit that. And now I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing with this policy. So what should I have done along the way? And what should I continue to do? And would you even recommend me doing this, for example, for my grandkids?
Well, when you have grandkids, we can talk, but let's keep that 10 years down the road, maybe?
Yeah, let's please.
So, great question. I also was a beneficiary of a life insurance contract, and I am a proponent of, for someone that has their plan in place for themselves, or if they're going for grandkids and they want to do gifting, it is a good option. And the reason is you can create tax efficiencies. You're never going to be as young as a little kid.
Don't I know
you
that?
can add riders to have future insurability without evidence of medical underwriting. And we all know life happens. Medical things happen. So guaranteeing your insurability is important. But really watching a contract grow over a 40, 50-year period, depending on the type of contract, could be very beneficial for generations to come and really create that family legacy and family wealth. I will say my insurance that my father put in place, down payment on a condo when I was still in law school.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So, Elaine, thank you so much for your wisdom today.
You're welcome.
Insurance is on all of our minds all the time because there's lots of different kinds of insurance. It is a complicated area, so we're never sure we're making the right decisions. So it's helpful just to get a few of these pieces of wisdom. And, you know, we're glad we were able to share this with you all today. If any of this sparks questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your Fairport Wealth Advisor, to our good friend Elaine Eisner at Eisner Goen Group, to ask the right questions, because that's really the key. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know the right people to ask and ask the right questions.
And that's why I love working with you guys. You create a team collaborative environment, and that's benefiting all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.